with Henry VII. And what we got with the nation-state republics is we got the Constitution later in the United States, natural law, general welfare. And, you know, the idea of general welfare, a lot of people understand it as a welfare state, you know, some big fat guy sitting at home watching television, eating pizza, collecting unemployment benefits. But, you know, the whole idea of what general welfare represents, it's, you know, it is immortality of the planet, of the humans. What is the responsibility of governments to its citizens? To provide for future generations. And that is what general welfare means, especially as it's written in the preamble to the Constitution of the United States. And that's what these people have been trying to destroy, you know, the idea of welfare where the states, you know, provide as a higher goal and higher objective for its citizens. And that's what immortality is, you know, assuring the, you know, the survival of the human species. And that's, you know, that's the empire of the soul and of the mind. Of course, the empire of the money, which is what Bilderberg is, they don't need all these people. And another objective reached through nation-state republics is, for the first time in France, because it was an impetus given by the people to the government to continue on the road to scientific developments and progress. And as a result of that, France, back then, began winning square kilometers of space against nature. And that changed, that revolutionized the whole world. We, the people, started growing as people. That's called progress and development. And that has given us wealth. And as Leibniz discovered 200 years ago, progress and development is directly proportional to population density. The more developed we are as nations, the more developed we are as the world, the wealthier we are, the more people live on the planet. And of course, the empire of the money doesn't need all these people. So they need to destroy nation states. They need to destroy, you know, the world economic system, because this is the only way they can drag us back, as you said, you know, to the feudal age where you and I and our children and our children's children worked the land, died, and their children worked the land for a very small group of people who controlled everything else.
Kad bi Bilderberzi htjeli vladati svijetom kroz Svjetsku banku, to ne bi bilo ni pola problema. Međutim, u zadnjih 30 godina pojavili su se dokumenti koji pokazuju da je jedan od strateških ciljeva smanjenje populacije, smanjenje broja ljudi na svijetu. Mnogi autori su spominjali neke dokumente iz 70. godina. U kojim dokumentima je, znači, otkrivena namjera ili nekakva misao da bi trebalo smanjiti broj ljudi na svijetu i kako se to uopće danas radi, ako je to istina?
Well, you know, before modern last 30 years, as you mentioned, you know, Malthus talked about this in his documents. And before that, beginning in the early 1600s, you know, the Venetians, Conti and Sarpi, they talked about it. In fact, you know, Malthus' theory on population is a plagiarized version of, you know, old Venetian black nobility's documents going back 450 years. In modern time, you know, the most famous document which everybody talks about is the 1974 study, population study called Memorandum 200. And in this memorandum, they're talking about reducing the world's population from the year 74 to 1974 to the year 2050 by 3 billion people. And it was the document signed by Kissinger and by Richard Nixon on April 24th, 1974. But again, a lot of normal people, when I say normal, I mean a person who goes to work, wakes up in the morning, goes, you know, works 9 to 5, comes home, you know, watches television, reads an occasional book, and watches a football game. That's a normal person. To explain to this normal person the fact that they want to, you know, reduce population from current level of 6.7 billion to 2 billion people, unless you put it in historical concept against the background of history, you know, people will look at you like you're insane. But again, it makes all the sense in the world because, as I said, you know, previously, Leibniz discovered that population density is proportional to growth. So if we prosper as nations, if we prosper as society, not only are we improving the lifestyles of the people, which is what general welfare is about, our obligation as nations, to make sure that we as human race survive, the propagation of the human race, that's what immortality is about. And the empire of the money, they don't want all these people eating up their natural resources. And that's why they need to reduce the world's population, not because it's a whim, but because it's a very historically logical concept, if you look at it from their point of view.
Ljudima je, kao što ste rekli, teško prihvatiti ideju da bi neko htio ubiti 4 milijarde ljudi. Međutim, lako je zamisliti nekoga tko je 37. u Njemačkoj ljudima govorio da će postojati tvornice smrti gdje će ljude kamionima i vlakovima dovoditi pod tuševe, ubiti, spaliti i pustiti kroz dimnjak. To bi naravno svima zvučilo fantastično, no to se dogodilo. Kad već spominjemo to, prije 1954. i prije Bilderberga, kakve su bile veze tih ljudi sa onime što se zbivalo u Europi 30. godina i 40-ih? Danas već ima dosta podataka koji pokazuju da je glavni šef CIA bio pobornik nacizma, da su naciste financirali američki industrijalci, ljubitelji eugenike i slično, čak i neki preci današnjih predsjednika. Kakvu je ulogu ova ista struktura ljudi imala u tom najmračnijem evropskom razdoblju? Jesu li zadovoljni svojim postignućem?
I don't know. I don't think they're satisfied. They're certainly not, unhappy. They're much further ahead than I would like to see them ahead, but not nearly as far, towards reaching their objectives as they want. But, again, if you look at it historically, what's today called Bilderbergers, back in the 1920s, they were the synarchy movement of empires. And the synarchy movement of empires, it was an organization led by Nazis who created banks such as Bank Worms in France, who are the main sponsors of Vichy France and of Hitler. So again, these societies and organizations are very, very old, and their intentions haven't changed. They keep morphing from one form to another, but the final objective is the same. And as far as who some of these individuals are, when we talk about Bilderberg, as I said, it's Bilderberg, and you have Trilateral Commission, and you have Council of Foreign Relations working together. You have different NGOs, you have foundations, think tanks. Well, two of the principal foundations, going back historically, who played such an important role in what you were describing back in the 1930s in Nazi Germany, were the Alfred P. Sloan and the Sage Foundation. Alfred Sloan was the CEO of General Motors back in 1923, and of course, an ardent Nazi. And both of these organizations, they created the Liberty League in the United States, who in the 1930s tried to depose Franklin Delano Roosevelt, the man who has done so much, for America, the last great president in the United States history. And ironically enough, again, merging the past and the future and the present into one, the same characters who today are the hardcore nucleus of Barack Obama's administration, they have Larry Summers and Peter Orsgaard and Sus Sunstein, all of these people, they all, come out of the Alfred P. Sloan and Sage Foundation, which is a roundtable kind of organization. And all of these people are what they call themselves behavioral economists, which two words, you have to be, insane or on drugs to actually put behavioral and economists together until you understand that what they're doing today is exactly the same kind of, morphing of evil principles back in the 30s of using economy, using behavior, of people to control economic processes.
Opisali ste kako to danas rade američki predsjednici, no malo prije ste rekli da je Franklin Delano Roosevelt bio zadnji veliki predsjednik. Nije li on zapravo bio dio tog istog plana s obzirom da je bio upleten i u rješenja takozvane velike depresije, još jedne namjerno stvorene krize? Potom je također imao sklonosti prema ulasku Amerike u rat i slično. Pa mi se čini da on dosta bio, kako bi se to reklo starim jezikom, na liniji tog plana. Što ga čini tako posebnim u odnosu na druge predsjednike?
Well, you're absolutely right. The Great Depression wasn't all that great and wasn't really a depression. It was simply a transfer of wealth. And it's something that a lot of people don't understand about how money works. It's not like water where it evaporates and disappears. Money goes from, point A to point B. So in the case of Great Depression, somebody lost and somebody gained. When I talk about Roosevelt being a great president, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, I mean, not Teddy Roosevelt, I'm not talking about every one of his actions was an action, for the betterment of humanity. I also put it in terms of historical concept where